segments about the idea of how to identify parallel and perpendicular lines by their slopes. So, comparing slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines, I could have written parallel as this symbol. Let me just put the symbol there. 2 slashes next to each other means parallel. And perpendicular can be written with that symbol. Okay? Just for future reference. If you see those symbols, that's what those mean. Now, what does it mean to have parallel slopes or parallel lines? It means the lines have the same tilt or go along in the same direction. And since that tilt is known as slope, these have equal slopes. So if you find 2 lines that have the same slope, you can say they're parallel. Perpendicular, on the other hand, are 2 lines that meet at a right angle, symbolized by that little box in the corner there. These have slopes that are, first of all, we know from previous videos or from previous study that if a line goes down from left to right, it's negative, and if it goes up from left to right, it's positive. But a steep line in either direction, going up or going down, would not be perpendicular. So it's not just the opposite slopes. You have to find the reciprocal of the slope too. So these are opposite reciprocal slopes. Reciprocal means flip it over. So for instance, if this had slope 3/4, then the perpendicular slope would be negative 4/3. Okay? Those slopes are opposite reciprocals. So, let's apply this understanding now to a question you might have to answer yourself. Here's an example. Classify these 2 lines, y equals 2/3 x plus 9 and 3x plus 2y equals 6, as parallel, perpendicular, or neither. You can see I use those symbols for those words. So we can tell the slope of this one. It is 2/3 because it's in y equals mx plus b and it's the m value. But we can't tell the slope of this one. What do we need to do? Remember, we need to solve this for y, so it's in y equals mx plus b form. So let's do that. First thing you would do is subtract the 3x from both sides. Okay? And you get this equation. This drops out on the left because it adds to 0. And we get 2y equals negative 3x plus 6. Remember to write the x term first. So we'll end up with mx plus b. That's not a b, that's a 6. Looks like a b. That's better. And there's one more thing to do. We need y. We have 2y, so we're going to divide each term by 2. And we get y equals negative 3/2 x plus 3. So now that one's in y equals mx plus b form as well. And what's the slope? We can see it right here. It's negative 3/2. So you can see that 2/3 and negative 3/2 are opposite reciprocals of each other. So these are perpendicular lines. And again, I use the symbol for perpendicular, so I wouldn't have to write it up. One more thing that you can do when you have perpendicular lines to check is take the 2 slopes, negative 3/2 and 2/3 in this case, and multiply them together. They should always equal This one equals negative 6 over 6 or negative 1. They should always equal negative 1. So you can take your calculator and try that and see if you get negative 1. Remember to put each fraction in parentheses on the calculator. Okay, and that's parallel and perpendicular lines.